Hey guys, this is Marc Goldberg from Marc Vlogs Watches, and today we're going to talk about the Rolex Submariner. I'm going to walk you through my buying experience, and most importantly of all, I'm going to tell you what it's like to wear a brand new, well, new to me, Rolex Submariner for like 80 straight hours, 3.5 days or something along those lines. Before we move into the meat and potatoes of this video, let's get the quick fist watch check out of the way, and I think you have an idea of what it might be. Indeed, today I am wearing the Rolex 116610 Rolex Submariner. So in ceramic and beautiful 904L steel with the glide lock clasp. Now, we're going to talk in some detail about this particular watch, but what I really want to talk to you about is the experience. So first, the buying experience. Let's get that out of the way first. I bought this watch on eBay, and as you know, I troll eBay, consistently making obnoxious offers to sellers with nice watches, and every once in a while, they accept my slightly obnoxious offer. Now, I made a whole video about how to do this, and I'll put a link to that in the description, how to buy difficult to obtain Rolexes and how to get good prices on them. That link will go right in the description of this video. But when I say obnoxious, I don't mean totally offensive. I don't mean ridiculous. I just mean like to the lower end of what these things could possibly sell for. And this was no exception. So I'm going to just tell you straight up front what I bought this for. I paid $8,500 for this watch. I got it on eBay. It was made through Best Offer, not on auction. And it is a 2012 model. It came with full box, papers, booklets, and hang tags. So it is what we would call a complete set. As to condition, well, I have a 2-year full parts and labor guarantee, so this in theory should not need a service. And even if it does, that will be covered if something should go wrong. In other words, if it falls radically out of factory specification, then I would just return it to the eBay seller that I bought it from. They have proved to be very good in terms of communication, and so I have been pleased with the buying experience. Now, I would have liked to have paid a little bit less, but boy, I'll tell you, we all know that the Rolex steel sports are in short supply, and it seems to me that for a current production model, because this model is in production right now, for a current production watch, this thing is getting impossible to find. And I'm talking about on the secondary market. Now, you can find it on the gray market without too much trouble, but having spoken to a few dealers, even they are occasionally having difficulty laying hands on this watch, and what that means is there's pressure on the price. Low supply, high demand. What do you think happens to prices? So this watch, if you would have bought it on the used market maybe a year ago, I think you could have really lucked into a really good deal. $7,800. Yeah, I think you could have, nipped one of these used full set, maybe just under $8,000. But that's going to happen occasionally now, but it's going to be a rarity. Maybe, in some podunk town off of Craigslist where the seller doesn't know what he's doing or he wants really quick cash. At any rate, the buying experience for me was good. Now, we'll talk about condition now, and then we will get into discussing the buying experience. So I'm just going to give you a good look at this, and this may be very difficult to decipher on camera, but to the trained eye, I have the trained eye of a jeweler, guys, and only because I've just handled so many Rollies that I know what they're supposed to look like, I know what they're supposed to feel like. And so in looking at this guy, what I knew was that the full bracelet has had a polish. And it hasn't been done artfully. So I know this was not polished by the authorized dealer. More than likely, this was polished by a jeweler, or maybe even a hack job polish, by the owner. It wasn't done with a scrubby sponge, though. It was done with some kind of a buffing wheel, not with heavy abrasive, thank God. So the brushed finish, which looks pretty good on camera and to the naked eye, looks good, but this brushed finish has changed itself a little bit to what I would call more like a sateen or a satin finish. It's just not quite right for the watch. So the clasp is it's not shiny, but it's shinier than it ought to be. It's not supposed to be a rough texture, but it's a little smoother, in theory, that it should be. Although really, very fortunately, let me give you a close-up of the Rolex Corona, which of course is in beautiful 904L steel 3D. You can let me get myself off the camera so it can focus. But a lot of times in a poor polish job, that Corona gets like knocked down and rounded out and just worn away, ground down. That hasn't happened here. Now the fact that it was polished was not in the description of the seller. And when I complained about that, they very kindly, I think, offered me a 100% refund. Buff that up a little bit. So, but you know what? I didn't want a 100% refund. It'll be really hard for me to replace this watch if I send it back to them. So I decided I'm gonna just keep it, and I won't need to service it, at least for a couple of years. It's running well, but I just don't know its service history, right? So I will leave it alone. I will not molest it, and then eventually it will go in for a service. Probably not to the Rolex Service Center. I'll probably send it to a really good aftermarket Rolex service guy who uses only Rolex parts and is very artful about restoring brushed finishes and just the right polish. This just is going to need a very light polish unless I beat the heck out of it. Now, beating the heck out of it brings me to my next set of thoughts about the watch, and that really has to do with why did I get this. Now, fellas, if you are a longtime viewer of this channel, you know I have a bunch of other Rolexes in my collection, and they would include, but not limited to, a two-tone Sky Dweller, a 50th anniversary Sea Dweller, a 44mm James Cameron, and two other Submariners, but both of them pre-ceramic. One of them a bluesy, and the other one a two-line no-date sub. So why? Why? Well, I'm an OCD collector, just like you, and I like watches. So this has been the missing link for me, the modern Submariner. But something happened, something unexpected, something weird, unusual, and something that defies all odds happened when I put on this watch. I didn't want to take it off. Now, I am a serial watch rotator, okay? I typically will wear 2, 3, 4, if it's a really bad day. Maybe I'll change watches 4 or 5 times. I'm a dog trainer, I work at home, so I constantly have access to watches that I rotate from the house to the bank, and so I may just change watches a whole lot. But when I put this thing on, something happened, and I just haven't taken it off. Now, it is not unusual for me, in fact, it is typical for me to sleep in a watch. So what I do is, well, tell me how weird is this? Sleeping in a watch? Do you do it? Put it in the comments. I shower and bathe in a watch. Do you do that? Tell me in the comments. And here I'm going to reveal one of my weirdest personal habits. And that is I have a little but very powerful flashlight by the bedside, which I use to charge up, my watches that I'm going to sleep in before I go to bed. And then I'm kind of like a middle of the night peer. So when I'm going back to bed, I just grab the thing and I recharge it. And so if I should wake up in the middle of the night and want to look at my watch, I can read it. Am I completely crazy, or are you with me on this one? So tell me about that, and we'll discuss this, in the comments. But okay, well, here's the thing. Now, I know from personal experience, just as all watch collectors know, there's something called the honeymoon period. We get something new, we fall in love with it, the romance is fresh, and we just can't stop touching it. And so that's another question that we could talk about in the comments. Am I just in the honeymoon period with this watch? Is it going to occur where somewhere in the next week I'll kind of fall out of love and just start grabbing my other watches and this goes into rotation someplace? It's entirely possible. And here's the confusing thing to me. This is outside of my usual dating and relationship, statistics, because more typically I'm drawn towards the brawnier, larger watches. Oh, I also have a 42mm Polar Explorer, which I dearly love. So of the watches that I like the most, this is like the smallest one. Why did I buy it? Well, I did tell you it was missing from my collection, so that's one reason. The other thing is, the other watches, I really don't want to work in them very much. As a dog trainer, I'm constantly reaching into crates and kennels, and I'm careful, but I might bang a watch. So I don't want to bang, I just don't want to bang a James Cameron. And I feel it's so tall, it is more prone to being knocked about and scratched. The same can be said of the 50th anniversary 43 millimeter Sea Dweller with the red line, because it's bigger and thicker. It lays really well on the wrists, but I tend to think of it more as a collector's item. I don't know why, it's just in my head that it's a watch that I'm going to wear. Don't get me wrong, buy what you love and wear what you love. And so I do wear it, I'm going to wear it, but I don't really want to wear it when I'm working. And so I've just been wearing a procession of beaters, when I'm working. You've seen the Phoebus watch. Sometimes I work in that, and I have a G-Shock, and sometimes I work or sleep in the G-Shock, because it's got that little button and boop, lights up with an LED light, and you can read it in the middle of the night. Oh, and that's another thing. This is a 2012 model, but its Chromalight, which is the Rolex proprietary brand of lume, is very good, and it works just as nicely as my very, very new, like my less than 1 year old Chromalight on my 50th anniversary Sea Dweller. So this is aging, without any signs of giving up the ghost on the lume, which is a really nice thing. So anyway, I feel like because this is a current production model, I'm not shy to wear it while working. It doesn't have the polished center links that the Batman has. Have one of those too, by the way. But as you know, that's discontinued. It's shot up in price. I probably shouldn't be banging it about. At the very least, this is a watch that's currently in production. I mean, in theory, I could convince a Rolex authorized dealer to put me on the waiting list and buy one of these. Now, I paid $8,500 for this. That is under MSRP, but it's only $50 under MSRP. So I just squeaked it in so that I could, brag, yes, got it for under MSRP. But bear in mind, I live in an area of the country with really high sales tax. So my sales tax would have been 10%. So $8,550 MSRP, and you could have added nearly but not quite $1,000 worth of sales tax to that. If you live in the UK or someplace with a 20% VAT or VAT, you feel my pain. It would have been even worse for you. So $8,500 American dollars, 2-year guarantee on parts and labor, 30-day money-back guarantee, full set. I felt pretty good about that. Well, I've been taking a bath in it. I've been showering in it. I've been sleeping in it. Once in a blue moon, I take it off to play with it. One of my favorite things about this watch is the bezel. Listen to the clicks. Oh, here. Microphone's there. Feels really good. I can tell you from personal experience with all sorts of Rolex divers, because of the James Cameron and the Deep Sea Dweller and all those pre-ceramics. This is a very nice bezel, but the James Cameron and the Deep Sea Dweller, the James Cameron and that 50th anniversary, both current production models, they have slightly better bezels. I don't know if the clipping, clink, clink, clink action, has a different mechanism. This is very good. Don't get me wrong, guys. This is very good. But it's just a little bit nicer if you step up to the one of the Sea Dweller, brothers. It's very nice. The glide lock clasp on this thing is terrific. You could see right now that the watch is very loose and sloppy on me, and I tend to, you can, kind of see that big old gap. I do like to have just like a pinky's worth of gap. I get real weird and claustrophobic if my watches are like sucked on too hard. But I think it got cool today, and therefore my wrist has kind of contracted. And so I'm just gonna, you can see the mechanism of the glide lock clasp in there. You see those little ratchets. What we do is you heard that snap down, and then now I can push it in or out until I find just the exact right position, to make me happy. So this is still loose. I like my watches to be able to turn, but I don't like them to, get hung up on the, on the bone to turn that far. Guys, I can't take this watch off. I have never worn a watch for 3.5, 4 days straight. Mind you, I'm sleeping in it, I'm bathing in it. It has been off of me just a smidge because a couple times I threw on a different watch. What have I done? I put on the Explorer 2 for a little while. Why don't I like the Explorer 2 to work in? Well, yes, it's a current production watch. And I think actually its MSRP, I think is slightly under this one. But where this has that scratch-proof black ceramic bezel, the Explorer 2 has a kind of a cone-shaped, very broad stainless steel bezel. And if you knock it into something, this is either going to shatter or not, probably not, but there won't be a mark on it. I know from personal experience with a prior Explorer 2 in the 40 millimeter variety, if you touch something hard with the bezel, you're going to leave a permanent mark on it. And it's not like you can just take a scrubby and fix it, just due to the grain of the steel on that bezel is one of the few things that you can't fix up with a scrubby in terms of Rolex. So I find myself paranoid when I wear that thing, not to be banging into things, and I probably baby it more than I should. But I bought this guy specifically not to baby it, not to abuse it, but to like wear it and wear it constantly. Remember I complained about the polish? Well, as you can see, it doesn't look bad, and on camera, I'm sure you wouldn't notice it. If you weren't uber familiar with many different Rolexes of varying ages, you might not even notice it. I myself do. But the fact that the polish job on this is not quite right, I thought about it at first, and I thought, do I need to like restore it right away so as not to have my OCD constantly firing? And I thought, nope, you know what? I'm gonna leave it because I bought this watch to work in. I'm probably gonna scratch and nick it up, and in a few years I can just like have it lightly polished up and restored to factory new specifications, and that's what I'm thinking about. So guys, the whole experience of this watch has been terrific. What I'm going to put in now is how I pressure test a new watch that I have a 30-day return guarantee on. We're going to take a look at that, and then we'll be done with this video. But tell me in the comments, do you think that I'm going to just throw this one back into the rotation pool? Or have I met my new lover, my new best friend, my soulmate? Is this it for me? Which is weird because it's only 40 millimeter and I thought I liked the big boys. What is going on with me? All right, guys, let's talk about this in the comments. Let's take a look at how I pressure test a brand new Rolex that's used and comes with a 30-day money-back guarantee. You might not want to do this at home, but I'll show you how I do it right now. Now, as we begin our pressure test, I want to assure you that there will be nothing horrifying for you to see here, but yes, you are getting into the bathtub with me. Like I said, you will not have to stab your eyes with pencils. Now, I start this process by showing that the watch is in fact dry, that there is no damage to the dial, no droplets or moisture inside, and that the crown is closed. And I do this when I have a guarantee on a watch, and I literally take running and continuous video in the off chance that it comes out where it was not properly sealed and in fact not watertight. Could you go to a jeweler and have them do a pressure test? You could, but it's kind of almost easier to do it at home, isn't it, guys? So here we are, just running it under a little bit of water real quick, and then I'm going to take another look to make sure that it's okay. And in fact, it is. And in a moment, it's going to get dunked underwater, and I think you can figure out the rest. I just periodically pick it up and take a look, but I like the video to be continuous because you could tell from the beginning of this video that there was zero damage to this watch. With zero editing, if there's damage to the watch at the end, well, I have really good proof to go back to my seller and say, hey, you sold me a watch that you've guaranteed, but you didn't check the seals on it, and you should have now fixed it. Should you do it like this? Well, probably not. It might make a whole lot more sense to go to the authorized dealer and get a pressure test, but I've never actually done that. Have you? Let's talk about that in the comments. Guys, it's so helpful to me. It really helps me a lot when you subscribe, when you hit the like button, when you talk to me in the comments, because then I know I'm doing this with you, and that's a lot more enjoyable than doing it alone. So thanks for being with me, guys. Talk to me in the comments. I will be there right with you. This is Goldberg. I'll give you another few minutes of this pressure test, but right now, I'm a peace out. See you next time.